Hey, the Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynard. Luckily, most of the severe thunderstorm warnings as of the 4:30 time period have been lifted. Apologize for the attire here. I was doing a podcast a little earlier on this afternoon. Gabe did a masterful job tracking some of the showers and thunderstorms that we've had. And we've had some pretty decent pictures coming in. We'll check in on some of those with Gabe here in just a minute, but we figured we'd come in with a live update here, just kind of for an update on where things stand at this instant. A couple different batches of thunderstorms that we are watching, including this batch we have up here closer to the Tennessee state line. We're watching for you in Corinth, out here toward around Jumpertown, Pisgah. Decent number of lightning strikes on this. If I get out of the way there, you can see 404 strikes over the last 30 minutes on this batch there near Kossuth, kind of expanding southward toward Rienzi and Jumpertown. We talked last night on Mississippi Live Weather, I believe it was 6 o'clock in particular, about that radar in Monroe County being down, no ETA. Look at it today, behaving. So occasionally we get lucky with that. Again, heavier rainfall with this moving toward Jumpertown, likely some low-hanging clouds, some wind gusts, mainly in the 35 to 45 mile per hour range. We're going to check in particular the wind mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar to kind of see the latest on that. In mentioning that, though, and I'm going to bring it back to the latest scan, I do think there's some embedded areas we could have maybe some 45 mile per hour gusts. Now, we're looking fairly high up with these 26 mile per hour wind gusts. So maybe, again, I don't think we're talking about severe levels, but some sporadic wind damage, not impossible out of this. As Gabe did a great job talking about earlier, one of the big deals on this is just the rainfall and the rainfall rates, which are just completely blinding. Look at the rainfall rates, and you're talking about 6 inches an hour. And again, it'd have to sit there to produce that over that time, and it's luckily moving, so it's not as much of an issue. That's some very, very heavy rainfall with this kind of kicking on through. As far as hail goes, the way we kind of track that is using our threat tracker here, showing the possibility of maybe up to 1 inch hail. I'll be honest, just based on the storm that eventually became severe, when I was driving through it earlier on, I think it's just really, really, really heavy rainfall more than hail, but maybe some hailstones a possibility out of that there. Come back to the precipitation mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar and kind of tracking it. The movement has not been particularly substantial. Back to a 1 hour loop on this here. We're going to look and see just exactly how far that has moved over that time period there. So I show it moving about 15 miles per hour. Gabe, does that sound like about the speed you're going earlier?
Yeah, 15 to 20 on a couple of these.
15 to 20. Go ahead and power on your mic there so people at home can hear you. We'll hear specifically more effectively from Gabe here in just a minute.
I will say those storms sped up because earlier on, whenever we were tracking it moving into Corinth, we basically said 4:30 and that was at 3:20. So slow movers earlier on, but it seems like they're starting to get their speed.
Okay, so and that sometimes happens. They kind of pick up a head of steam with it there. So watching this moving toward the east and southeast, I show a Glens now. We're looking closer to Pleasant Ridge by about 438 there. Blackland Community about 445. Rienzi about 446. Burnsville 450. Again, this is mainly just heavy rainfall with it as it works its way toward Jacinto. We're going to clean this up just a little bit on our track there and show some folks that are a little farther ahead than that. So give a moment to kind of do that, and you'll see we kind of change that there. We get down to Boonville by about 451. We're looking at Iuka 511 there and about 527 there for Guntown on that batch. This is mainly moderate rainfall to maybe some gusty winds. Certainly it's going to look, I think, a little worse than the reality of it actually is. We do have this flash flood warning that's been in effect out here for Cherokee, Alabama. That effect, as you can see, for Colbert County there until about 5:45. Again, a lot of heavy rainfall. As Gabe mentioned earlier, one of the big factors with these storms has just been a lot of really heavy rainfall on this. I'm going to see if we can check out some of those rainfall accumulations over the last 3 hours here. Some of those locations, yeah, I mean, where you see the brighter oranges there, those are spots where you've seen up in excess of 4 inches estimated on Mississippi Live Weather Radar at this time. Now, those numbers are much more I don't know if much more mild is the way to put it, but are a little bit more reasonable for other locations around our area. But you still see some spots there in Lee County, and I think, of course, Gabe mentioned this earlier on. We have some locations up around 3 inches for some of those rainfall totals estimated on Mississippi Live Weather Radar there. And then if we come down here closer to, say, Starkville, a few spots out there in Oktibbeha County close to 2 inches. And there might be a little hail contamination with that as well. Bring it back to latest scans here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Again, the precipitation mode, the way in which we can kind of do that as we kind of clear things out here. We're also watching a few of these out here toward Hamilton, Alabama, and Hackleburg and Duketon here. Again, heavy rainfall, the main impact on these thunderstorms as well. Putting this back into motion. We're going to make this 1 hour loop. We're going to track this. I think this is moving a little slower. I think this is what Gabe was mentioning a moment ago. This is probably more in the neighborhood of around maybe 12 to 13 miles per hour. These are not particularly fast movers. That'd get it there close to Haleyville, about 524, assuming it doesn't pick up speed, and it could pick up a little bit of speed there. Fairview at 442. We're looking at Bear Creek about 457 as that works its way toward the east. Haleyville, 524, as I mentioned there. Needmore at 527. Clearing that that off. This is one we'll look in 3 dimensions at here to kind of assess how high that hail or any sort of hail potential could end up becoming on it. It does not look like it's super impressive in that regard. We'll bring it back to the current scan. We'll bring it in slightly closer. Again, I do show as we cut into this a core aloft that does have some of the darker reds, but we don't have any of the brighter pinks on it. So again, I think that's why it's more really heavy rainfall than anything else on that. Bring it back to 2 dimensions here, and we slide southward, watching the storm down here closer to Lamar County. And then we're going to go back up there to Alcorn County. Again, Lamar County, you can see how I see through this. And notice how you can't see any of the terrain through that back down there near Bethlehem community there. That would be, I believe, that'd be Pickens County. But you can kind of see through most of up here. Tells us that the rainfall is not nearly as heavy for some of those spots. We'll put that in the motion, give you a storm track on that as it works its way toward Fayette County there, kind of toward the south and east. We kind of got a lot of things going on. This bigger batch there, as that kind of collapses, kicking out some gustier winds there toward Fayette. We'll give a storm track on that. Again, not a particularly swift storm, the way we describe any of these at this point. I'm tracking kind of the next heaviest batch. There will be some kind of running ahead of this. But this one is moving a little bit more, we'll say 17 miles per hour. So we'd get that into Fayette there at about 4:55 based on that. Of course, we do have some other showers there around south of town as well. And then even the part there, it's moving closer to Fayette. That northern part isn't quite as impressive. Let's come back here into the regular rainfall mode on Mississippi Live weather radar, the precipitation mode with that. And I'll slide back north here to Alcorn County again for a moment. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynard was watching this fairly closely. Gabe, you were seeing something a second ago. What are you seeing on this?
Winds are just getting tighter on it. Not tight in regards to circulation, but tight in regards to maybe some hail developing, some of those updrafts really kicking in, but heavy rainfall. And yeah, there's a look at some of those wind gusts. And if we populate those in, you're getting those brighter returns on that leading edge there towards Pisgah and Bynum. That's 20 to 30 miles an hour. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised to see more 40 to possibly 50 at the surface, as we are still looking a decent bit aloft. So Rienzi, Jacinto, even Boonville getting some of those gusts as this starts to push further into the area. But that purple showing up there is just something to pay attention to, because that's kind of that hail core that might be trying to form.
Okay, so maybe a little bit of hail on that one if it can kind of continue that way. Appreciate that, Gabe. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, of course, watching things as I'm looking at one spot, he's looking at another. That's kind of the way team coverage works on this. You can see how storms there from the east have kicked out this little area of rain cool there. Watch right here, that line coming in. That's going to continue to intensify this Carrollton down there south. And this is kind of where we cut off our coverage area on this. I don't think at this point we're going to do a lot of coverage DeKalb down toward Philadelphia. I think in major days where we have tornadoes, things like that, we will expand somewhat based on threat. But most days we're going to try to concentrate in the northern part of the state still at this point here. Let's get the speed on this batch of storms. So again, I show it there closer to Carrollton. That batch has moved about 15 miles per hour, so similar to what we had up there in Alcorn County. This is very well depicted on our Mississippi, on our Futurecast last night. We were looking at that HRRR Futurecast during our 5 and 6 o'clock broadcasts. It did a good job of kind of depicting some of these thunderstorms sliding south with this. So I'm going to put that track about like that. And so you can see there, Bell Community, we're over top of you now, getting a little closer there to Stevens. By about 4:46. We kind of work our way down the list here. We show Geiger at 4:57 there only, at about 4:57, Kirk about 5:07, and then Lewiston and locations really beyond our area once we go just a little bit beyond that. So heavy rainfall, the main thing with this line. Let's look for the threat tracker here. We could show the different threats that this is capable of. I'm going to look a couple different ways from Columbus there at that. And again, this is always the peak threat. So where you see lots of areas of blue, most of this is not actually probably hail. Most of this is, I think, to a large extent, just really heavy rainfall. But there are some spots there where we do show the potential maybe for some hail. So again, if I get my big head out of the way there, it says peak threats. That's an important thing to note, that where we have, again, the greatest potential on some of this. Let's come back to precipitation mode. Actually, I'm going to go wind mode there. A few spots where we have some gusty winds. This not, again, over the top, but a little stronger than what we were depicting up for locations to the north. Where we're looking at this here, that's in the neighborhood of around 3,100 feet above the ground. So again, when we're looking at 30-mile-an-hour winds and we're 3,000 feet up, it can be stronger closer to the surface with some of these storms. You'll notice there are really just those two that kind of catch your attention looking in the area. The one that we have up there closer to Alcorn and Prentiss County, and then one we have there in Pickens County. A couple other ways we should look at this afternoon. Again, making our camera down there with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, kind of looking out on this there, looking at that heavy precipitation as those storms have moved through. This kind of looking in, I believe, more of a northwesterly direction. We might have had some kind of power disruption there. There we go. Kind of playing catch up there. The heaviest precipitation through that. If you give me a moment, I'm going to switch our camera around just a little bit. So give me just a second to look there at Macon, and we will swing that back around. So just a second for me to pull that up. And actually, Gabe, if you want to pull that up on the switcher computer, that might be the better way to do that. I say that, and we'll look at a different camera here in just a minute. We actually might swing. You might swing Tupelo around. I can probably move Macon myself on this one, but go and swing Tupelo around. Actually, I say that. Yeah, we're looking back here north. I'm going to swing this back around more toward the northeast. I know we're going to kind of look through the tower here, but we'll be able to look deeper into that storm as this swings there. And obviously the heavy precipitation, the darker gray, of course, where we're dealing with a lot of rainfall there that kind of is sort of clouding our view up to a certain extent. Give me a moment to swing this just a little bit more there, but nothing that looks overly impressive. Again, appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. If certainly you find these cameras useful, North Mississippi Storm Chasers, a nonprofit, a 501c3 that, of course, would appreciate your donations as we continue to kind of expand that network. They continue to expand that network. It's kind of a cool thing that they are doing with that, and appreciate them. Back here to the precipitation mode on a Mississippi Live weather radar, looking in around the region. We do have a few of these thunderstorms kind of northwest Mississippi that have developed here. Again, all below severe limits, thankfully, but still showing up with some heavy rainfall with these near Pinckney, out there toward Pritchard and Tunica. We'll see if our camera there at Helena, West Helena, has any kind of a viewpoint on this here. It'll be just off of that. Again, dark clouds, that's about it. Looks like that reporting station there also not replying at the moment, but heavy rainfall with that batch. We'll put it into motion for you.
Here, Matt, change it over to the Memphis radar.
That's a great idea. Let's look over here toward Memphis. We've just used this much the last couple days. I was just giving it a rest. Yeah, these are less impressive, honestly, the closer that you are to these. I'm going to check the wind actually from the Tower Doppler weather radar there at the Memphis airport. Of course, this one is primarily used for wind, for getting those planes in and out of Memphis airport. We can see where we have the brighter greens. I don't have anything. You see where the color changes up here from the green to kind of the bluish color? That's where we'd go across severe winds, where we're talking 60-mile-per-hour winds or greater. Same over here where it changes between the red and the yellow there. So that's one way, even if I'm not pointing at it, if you see that sharp color change on that, between, again, your cool colors on one side and the warm colors on the other. If it's just in the cool and the color change or just in the warm and color change, that's typically an escalation in that overall wind speed that's showing up with that there. So widen things out a bit more. Again, heavy rainfall with that batch. A few out here toward Cleveland and Shelby, but again, those below severe limits. And same with these, again, down around DeKalb. So I'm going to bring this in our meteorologist Gabe Maynor again here for a second. Gabe, what you looking at?
Well, continue to assess Alcorn County and Prentiss County. What it's doing is actually kind of interacting with an outflow boundary. So you can see the outflow, that green line that's popping up right there. If we zoom in on the Alcorn and Prentiss County area, it's starting to bow out in a way, and that's increasing some of the wind speeds along that leading edge, basically right along Highway 45 at this point. So folks in Boonville, Bynum, Ramsey, probably going to be experiencing some gusty conditions anywhere from 20, 30, maybe even 40 miles an hour, and tracking that out, you can see that.
Hold on, I need to get a better speed on that. Hold on.
I got you. Yeah, I mean, they're not moving overly fast, but I would still say 10 to 20.
I think it's still 15 is what I'm going to go. I'm going to try to get it.
Hey, the middle of 10 and 20. There you go.
There you go. It's like that 25%.
There you go. Rienzi 448, Bynum by about 450, Boonville closer to 457, so that's here in the next 10 minutes or so. Wheeler 507, and then we're seeing altitude by about 517, and then further south and east there into the rest of Prentiss County and towards Tishomingo. But it's not severe, but definitely watching that interaction with the outflow boundary as it's still riding along that leading edge, and we've seen all across the area tonight, whenever that outflow boundary is lined up with those storms, they continue to increase, but the moment they kind of separate, well, then that's when those chances really diminish. So Matt, watching a lot. There's a lot going on, but fortunately, not really severe. Thankfully,
yeah, as you mentioned, not really severe as far as that is concerned. So again, we're looking out of our camera here in Tupelo back towards some of those thunderstorms. We have a live broadcast scheduled here in about 15 minutes. Do we have enough set up for the 5 o'clock show to keep going, or let's go ahead and I think get off, we'll fix things and come right back on. How about that? That sound good?
That works for me. Unless anything becomes severe, then we'll come back on, of course.
Absolutely. So more updates, of course, here, Mississippi Live weather at 5 o'clock. When there's weather, of course, we're here for you, and keep it here for the very latest. I think I'll have to actually click back into vMix.
Yes,
yeah, now we'll try it.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that. Oh boy.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.